Hi, welcome back. In this part we're going to take a look at creating some piping for the edges of our cushions here. So I'm going to start by simply replicating these four pieces here, because what we'll do is we'll fold these in half and have them act as the piping, the trim that goes around. So I'll just Control C and Control V these for a start. Hit the synchronize to get them to synchronize over to the viewport. I'll then freeze both of these cushions. So easiest way, just select them all and freeze, and then I can reset this pattern. So this gives me a basis to start to work to create the piping, and the reason I copied these is because now they're laid out in approximately the right place. What we do have, you can see, is some stitching still on there. So if we select here the edit seam lines, I can see where that stitching is, so I just click it and delete. So when you copy and paste some of these objects here, sometimes you're going to get the stitching with them, which we don't want, so we'll just get rid of those. And then I'm going to take one of these cushions and pull it out from the sofa, just so we can get a better look at it. And when we're done, we can obviously just slide it back in, but we'll just pull it out here for now. Okay, I'm going to take all of these from up here and just move them basically into position. So, you know, again, you don't have to be too accurate, but we don't want them miles away. Alright, so that looks fairly like they're in the proper position around the cushion. So when we do this, we're going to need the piping for the top of the cushion and the piping for the bottom of the cushion. In the tutorial, I'm just going to make the ones for the top, because you know it's done exactly the same way for the bottom, so I don't want to just unnecessarily repeat a lot of stuff. And what we want is to fold these in half and then stitch them all together and then inflate them so they're kind of rounded, piping like. If we go back again to the reference, you can see here that these are sort of rounded, as you would expect to see, I think, on a cushion of this type. So we'll just go into Marvelous Designer, and the first thing I want to do is put a point in the middle of these. So if I select the Add Points and go here and then right click, it'll bring up this menu, and I can just put that at 50%. So that will be 50% along this line. Okay, now I get a point that's exactly in the middle. And you know, you'll see this when I do this, it takes time because it synchronizes it over to the viewport. So if we just unclick the synchronization, we can then do this a lot faster. And just do these last two. Okay, so that gave us the points, you know, centrally on each of these lines. Now we need to use one of these internal polygonal lines to just connect those points together. And here we go. This will become the fold mark that these patterns fold along. Okay, there we go. Right, so at the moment they're not obviously attached to anything, so let's go ahead and take care of that. So we'll find out what this top piece is, or where it is in this pattern view. So we'll just click on it. So it's this piece. Let's just move that here. It doesn't really matter where you move things in this view, but it can make it, you know, easier when you're sewing stuff together. So let's sew this to this and synchronize across, of course, and we'll be able to see the stitch lines. This to this, this to this, and this one to this one. Alright, so that's got them stitched up to the cushion. We're also going to need to get them stitched together here on the corners. So we're going to stitch this here And we're just going to stitch around, making sure we don't have any cross stitches. We look fine. Okay, just these last couple. And there we go. So that's all stitched together. Now we're going to take these internal lines and tell them to fold over. So to do that, we need to select them all. Okay, and we want to put the fold strength to something quite high, like 80, and the fold angle to 0. Now, if I were to simulate now, these would try and snap together and snap to the cushion. And what I want them to do is fold over slightly before they do that. So we'll come to the scene and we'll just take the last 8 seam pairs that we put in, and those are the stitch marks. So 1, 2, and turn them off. You'll see them go grey in the viewport here. Okay, so what are we doing here? Okay, we have more than 8, obviously, because we've got these ones here. So let's just take these and 6 and 9. So okay, and I'm just going to select all the seam lines that we just put in. So I think it's just from there to there. No, got an extra one there, folks. There we go. And I'm going to turn all of those off. So when I simulate now, you'll see these fold in half. You see? And we can probably get that more pronounced if we use a more robust material on this, something like a leather or leather belt type material. Let's go to fabric and add one, and we'll call this just call it sides for now, and I'll use a material preset of leather belt. So let's select all of these and give them the material preset. Okay, and material preset sides. Alright, so we'll just reset and go again, and you should see these now get a more pronounced fold mark. So you can see they're really kind of folding in half now. Now what we need to do is stitch them together. Now they've got that initial fold in them, we can now stitch them together this way. So it's just grab our sewing tool here and just stitch this side to this side. And which one was that? Yeah, we can see it here. So that side and that side are now stitched together, so they're going to pull towards each other, of course. This one and this one, this one and this one, and this one and this one. Alright, so I've turned those folds, sewing lines back on. Let's turn all the sewing lines back on. So all these seam pairs that we turned off before, turn them on now, and hit simulate. And let it settle down, make sure it doesn't have any bisection. Okay, I can see we've got a slight error here. That's where it's snapped into the cushion, and sometimes you'll need to do this a couple of times. And I can see as well that this piping here is it's not very rounded. So in order to make it more rounded, what I'll do is I'll just do this simulation again. I'll just push these a bit closer to the actual cushion so they don't snap quite so ferociously together. Okay, and I'll have to turn off all of these again, and also all of these now. Okay, so we just want them to fold over a bit first. Okay, now I'll turn on the ones that stitch them together. Okay, that's them stitched together. And you know, if I want to get this a bit less shock to the system, what I can do is I can come in and turn these to where they're facing, so the stitch marks are actually facing the cushion they're going to attach to. And which way round are you going? This way? Yep. As I said in the previous part, this operation is a little fiddly. Okay, and this one, which looks pretty low down. Okay, so that's given them a best chance now to sort of snap to the cushion with the least possible shock. And to get them to round out, we need to take our fold lines we have here, here, and here. Okay, and we need to set that fold angle from 0 to 180. This is the degrees that the fold will be in. So this will now attempt to fold at 180 degrees, giving us a much more rounded shape. So let me just simulate this out. And there you can see now these have gone very round. Alright, so I'll just move them up. And then of course I'll have to activate our stitching here, and the stitching that stitches the pipes together across the sides. Alright, let's just make sure there's no bisection going on. Okay, let's come in and turn all these seam pairs on. So you'll see they've all gone coloured in the viewport now. And simulate. Okay, so that's the piping done. It's a little big, of course, but I just made it this size for kind of display purposes. So what I would really do now is come in and make it a little thinner. And of course you can just use the transform tool to do this. So you just make it a little thinner and then re-simulate it out again. You're obviously going to need to do the bottom, and then what I would do is delete this cushion and just replace them on the couch. You can of course do both if you want, it doesn't really matter. I think it would just be a little quicker to do one and control C and B, so duplicate it across. Alright, I will see you back in the next part, and I thank you very much for watching.